So in this video, we're going to look at how fixed exchange rate works, why certain countries want to fix their currency to another country, and what are the limitations. Let's take a look. So fixed exchange rates work by having one country fixing its currency to another country at a rate that they choose. So when we think about this, it doesn't have to be one-to-one. You don't have to be at parity to decide to fix. You could be with a currency right now that one unit of your currency is 2 units of theirs, and you decide to fix it at that. It doesn't really matter what the starting point is. What we're saying is that this is the ratio between the two that you choose, and therefore you're going to make sure that that same rate applies throughout time. So why would countries want to do this? Well, the main reason is to make trade very easy between these two countries, in the sense that if you trade between these two countries and currency is always going up and down in value, it makes it very hard to predict, and makes it very hard to integrate between the markets and to export and import. But as soon as you fix it, then it makes it a lot easier. That's one of the reasons. Another one is if you're in a country that you don't really trust your central bank, it's not very developed, it's not something that is too advanced in your country, and you don't want to have like hyperinflation problems and other things like that. By fixing your currency to another currency, you're kind of following their path. So if they're a stable currency and they're doing well, you'll also be in that direction as well. You won't have the ability to just print a lot of money to get out of recession if they're not doing that, because otherwise you're going to devalue your currency and now you won't be in that kind of fixed zone that you want. This whole process works by setting the rate and then making sure that as there's a disconnect, or as your currency would have wanted to appreciate, you're going to bring down its value back to the desired level. Or if your currency was about to depreciate, you want to prop up its value. So how can the central bank do this? Well, it's going to start off with a lot of foreign reserves. So within the vaults of the central bank, they'll have to start off with a certain amount of reserves from other countries, their money, and that way they can buy and sell their own currency. So if they want to buy their currency in foreign markets to make it more rare and to prop up its value as they're flooding the market with this other currency, which will drop its value, they have to have that foreign currency to do so. But if they want to make more of their currency, their own currency, readily available, they're just going to have to send some of their own currency and buy foreign reserves at the same time. So one of those two processes can be done for very long periods of time, the other one not. So the one that's easy to sustain over time is the one where, let's say I'm in Canada, that the Canadian government decides to sell Canadian currency and buy foreign reserves. That they can do that indefinitely because they can always print more Canadian currency. On the other hand, they can't sell US reserves and other countries' reserves indefinitely and buy back Canadian dollars, because they don't have an infinite amount of those reserves, and they cannot print more US currency. They don't have access to that. So which of those two represents which? Well, the one that you're constantly flooding the market with your own currency is when you are trying to bring back down its value of your currency. So you're keeping your currency artificially low, like lower value than what it should be worth. Your currency should be appreciating in value relative to the other currency. So there's a lot of demand for your product, which leads to an increase in the value of your currency. But you're responding to this by saying, no, we can't let our currency appreciate. We're going to flood the market with our own currency to bring back down its value. So artificially low has no limits. Artificially high, when your currency should have fallen in value, but the only way that you're going to prop back up its value is by taking some of your currency off the market that situation has its limits. So historically speaking, two big stories kind of come up. In Mexico, there was a Mexican peso crisis. The Mexican peso was fixed to the US dollar. At some point, for various reasons, political turmoil and a few other things going on, the Mexican peso should have lost a lot of its value. And they tried to keep that currency artificially high for a certain amount of time. And after a while, they just ran out of reserves. And then when that happened, they couldn't do it anymore. And overnight, the peso lost approximately 40% of its value. So that's something that we could see. And then sometimes you might have countries say that China is keeping its currency artificially low. And if that's true, well, then that's feasible over time, because it's feasible to just keep your currency artificially low for sustained amount of periods of time. So two different kind of possibilities. So it's useful to keep your currency fixed to be able to trade easier between two different countries. But the limitations of it is that if you try to fix it and keep it artificially low, no limitations. But if you try to keep it artificially high, you will run out of reserves eventually. So that's one of the complicated things of having a fixed currency, is that you don't know which direction it's going to go. You don't know if all of a sudden people will want to buy more of your product that should prop up the value of your currency or not. So hopefully you understand the whole system, how it works. Essentially, you set a rate, then you try to maintain it by acting along the way, buying and selling of currency, and hopefully you're able to sustain this over time. If it's always like close to this and the value is going up and down, close to that range, it's pretty easy to manage. It's when the currency should have lost or gained a lot of value that makes it a little harder to manage. So hopefully that helps to clarify how fixed exchange rate works. Talk to you on the next one. If you found this video interesting, please consider subscribing or joining my class where I guide you to apply and expand on the information found in these videos to real life examples. Have a good day.